The desert wind began as a whisper, the kind that slips between rocks and rattles dry bones buried beneath the sand. By the time the sun reached its highest point, that whisper had grown into something restless, something alive. And somewhere out there, swallowed by the rising storm, an outlaw vanished without a trace. His name was Jesse Calder. Some said he was a ghost long before the sandstorm took him. Others swore he was the fastest gun in 3 territories, a man who could draw and fire before most even blinked. But the truth, like most things in the desert, was buried beneath layers of dust, lies, and fear. The last man to see him alive was a bounty hunter named Rowan Hale. Rowan wasn't the kind of man who chased legends. He chased facts, cold, hard, and often written in blood. He had a reputation for finishing what he started, and when Jesse Calder's name landed on his list, it wasn't the stories that caught his attention. It was the reward. Dead or alive, most preferred the first option. Rowan found the trail just outside a forgotten mining town where the buildings leaned like drunks and the air tasted like rust. A bank job gone wrong, they said. 2 guards dead, safe cracked open like a tin can. And Jesse Calder walking out alone, pockets heavy and eyes calm. Too calm. That's what bothered Rowan. Outlaws ran. They panicked. They made mistakes. Jesse Calder didn't. The trail led east, toward open desert. Not the kind with clear paths and scattered cacti, but the kind that stretched endlessly, flat, merciless, and empty. The kind that made men question why they'd ever left home. Rowan saddled his horse, a black stallion named Iron, and rode without hesitation. The first day was easy. The tracks were fresh, clear against the hard-packed sand. Jesse hadn't bothered hiding them. That alone told Rowan something. Confidence. Or a trap. By the second day, the sun turned cruel. Heat pressed down like a hammer, and the horizon shimmered with false promises of water that vanished the closer he got. Rowan rode with steady patience, eyes never leaving the ground for long. That's when he noticed it. The spacing of the tracks. Jesse wasn't running. He was pacing himself. Rowan frowned beneath his hat. That meant one of 2 things. Either Jesse knew he couldn't outrun him, or he didn't care. Neither sat well. By the 3rd day, the wind began to rise. It started as a steady push against Rowan's back, carrying fine grains of sand that stung the skin. Iron snorted and shook his head, uneasy. Yeah, Rowan muttered. I feel it too. The desert was changing. Tracks became harder to follow as the wind blurred their edges. Rowan dismounted more often, crouching low to read the ground like a book being erased 1 word at a time. And then he found something that made him pause. A fire pit, cold, but recent. Jesse had stopped here, rested, maybe even slept. Rowan circled the area slowly, studying every detail. No signs of struggle, no extra tracks, alone. But there was something else. A mark in the sand, drawn with deliberate care. A circle, with a line through it. Rowan stared at it, unease creeping into his chest. It wasn't random. It meant something. But what? The wind picked up again, erasing part of the symbol before his eyes. Damn it, he muttered, committing it to memory. He mounted Iron and pressed on. By late afternoon, the sky began to change. The blue faded into a pale, sickly yellow. The sun dulled behind a thin veil of dust. The horizon darkened, not with clouds, but with something heavier. A wall, a sandstorm. Rowan's jaw tightened. Of course, no rider in his right mind would head toward a storm like that. Unless he had no choice. Or unless he wanted to disappear. Rowan urged Iron forward, pushing harder now. If Jesse reached that storm first, the trail would vanish completely. The distance closed slowly, painfully. The storm grew larger, louder, until Rowan could hear it, a deep, roaring growl that echoed across the desert like a beast waking from sleep. And then he saw him. A figure on horseback, silhouetted against the rising wall of sand. Jesse Calder. Even at a distance, there was no mistaking the way he sat his horse, relaxed, controlled, like the chaos ahead meant nothing. Jesse, Rowan shouted, though the wind stole his voice. The outlaw didn't turn, he just kept riding, straight into the storm. Damn you, Rowan growled, spurring Iron into a full gallop. The world blurred around him as he closed the gap. Sand lashed his face, stinging his eyes. The roar of the storm swallowed everything, sound, sight, even thought. Jesse reached the edge first. For a brief moment, he slowed. And then, as if making a decision only he understood, he rode into the storm and vanished. Rowan didn't hesitate. He followed. The sandstorm hit like a wall. Wind screamed in his ears. Visibility dropped to nothing. The world became a swirling chaos of gold and shadow. Rowan wrapped a cloth around his face, squinting through the storm, trying to keep his bearings. "Easy, Iron," he shouted, though the horse was already panicking. They pushed forward blindly. Every instinct screamed at Rowan to turn back. No bounty was worth dying like this, lost, buried, forgotten. But he pressed on, because something about Jesse Calder didn't add up. Minutes stretched into eternity. Rowan lost all sense of direction. The storm shifted constantly, disorienting, relentless. And then, a shape, faint, ahead. Rowan urged Iron forward, heart pounding. The shape grew clearer. Rocks, tall, jagged formations rising from the sand like the bones of some ancient beast. Shelter. Rowan rode toward them, nearly collapsing with relief as the wind weakened slightly within their shadow. He dismounted, tying Iron to a rock and stepping forward carefully. "Jesse," he called, voice hoarse. Silence answered. Rowan drew his revolver. "Come out," he said. "It's over." A voice echoed from somewhere within the rocks. "Is it?" Rowan turned sharply. Jesse stepped from the shadows. Up close, he looked different than expected. Not wild-eyed or desperate. Calm, almost tired. His clothes were dust-covered, his face lined with sun and something deeper, something heavier. "You followed me into a storm," Jesse said. "That's either bravery, or stupidity." Rowan kept his gun trained. "Depends on who I'm talking to." Jesse's lips curved slightly. "Fair enough." The wind howled outside, but within the rocks, there was an eerie stillness. "Why?" Rowan asked. "Why come out here?" Jesse glanced toward the storm. "Because this is where it ends." Rowan frowned. "For you." Jesse looked back at him. "For both of us, maybe." A tense silence settled between them. Rowan took a step closer. "You killed 2 men in that bank." Jesse's expression didn't change. "They were already dead." "That doesn't make sense." "It will," Jesse said quietly. "If you listen." Rowan hesitated. Then, against his better judgment, he lowered the gun slightly. "Talk." Jesse exhaled slowly. "That bank wasn't a robbery. It was a message." "From who?" "From men who don't like loose ends." Rowan's eyes narrowed. "You're the loose end." Jesse nodded once. "Used to run with a group. Worse than anything you've heard. We did things that don't wash off. And now I'm the last one left." Rowan felt a chill despite the heat. "So they're hunting you." Jesse met his gaze. "And anyone who gets close to me." The pieces began to fall into place. The calm, the pacing, the storm. "You led me here," Rowan said slowly. Jesse didn't deny it. "Why?" "Because I needed someone who wouldn't quit," Jesse said. "Someone who'd follow me all the way to the end." Rowan's grip tightened on his revolver. "You're not making a lot of sense, Calder." Jesse stepped closer, unarmed, unafraid. "Those men from the bank. They weren't guards. They were watching me, waiting for the right moment. And you killed them. They would have killed me first." Rowan studied him carefully. The man wasn't lying. Or if he was damn good at it. "So what now?" Rowan asked. Jesse looked toward the storm again. "Now they come." As if on cue, shadows appeared at the edge of the rocks. Riders. 5 of them, moving through the storm like specters. Rowan cursed under his breath. "You've got to be kidding me." Jess's voice was steady. "This is why I came here. Out in the open, they have the advantage. In here, it's different." Rowan raised his gun again, this time toward the approaching figures. "You dragged me into a trap. I gave you a choice," Jesse said. "You followed anyway." The riders dismounted, spreading out, surrounding the rocks. "Guess we're in this together now," Rowan muttered. Jesse finally drew his weapon. "For what it's worth," he said, "I didn't expect you to make it this far." Rowan smirked slightly. "Yeah, I get that a lot." The first shot rang out. Then chaos erupted. Bullets ricocheted off stone. The confined space amplified every sound, every movement. Rowan fired with precision, dropping one rider before they could take cover. Jesse moved like a shadow, fast and fluid, his shots deliberate and deadly. 2 more riders fell, but the remaining ones were smart. They flanked, using the storm as cover, closing in. Rowan felt a sharp pain as a bullet grazed his arm. He gritted his teeth and fired back. "Still think this was a good idea?" he shouted. Jesse didn't answer, because one of the riders had slipped behind him. Rowan saw it a second too late. "Jesse!" The shot rang out. Jesse staggered, but he didn't fall. He turned, firing point blank. The last rider dropped. Silence fell. The storm began to ease. Rowan lowered his gun slowly, breathing hard. "You all right?" Jesse looked down at the blood spreading across his chest. "Not really," he said. Rowan stepped closer. "We can get you out of here." Jesse shook his head. "No, this was always how it ends." He reached into his coat and pulled out a small pouch, handing it to Rowan. "What's this?" Rowan asked. "Proof," Jesse said. "Names, places, everything they've done." Rowan stared at it. "You could bring them all down," Jesse added. Rowan looked back at him. "Why me?" Jesse's eyes softened slightly. "Because you followed the truth, even into a storm." His knees buckled. Rowan caught him before he hit the ground. The desert fell quiet as the last of the wind faded away. Jesse Calder, the outlaw who vanished into the sandstorm, took his final breath beneath a clearing sky. Days later, Rowan rode out of the desert alone. The storm had erased the tracks, erased the blood, erased the battle, but not the truth. Somewhere behind him, beneath shifting sands, lay the end of a legend. And the beginning of something far bigger. Because in the desert, men might vanish. But their stories never do.